Hos pas νηπίους όντα το πριν, ἔννους ἐθήκα καὶ φρενῶν ἐπηβόλους.
Prometheus proclaims that he turned us into thinking beings. This is the story of what the Greeks did with the Titan's gift. They say the muse Urania was his mother. He was Linus of Thebes, who prophesied the inevitable reunion of the separated world.
Εκ καρχένος ποτεόντος χολού τα δε πάντ εγένοντο. Εκ πάντων δε ποτ άουτχις hen έσσεται εν χρόνου αισέι.
A fragment attributed to the legendary seer Orpheus asserts unity. Zeus is the beginning, Zeus is the middle, all things are born of Zeus.
Σδέους αρχέ, σδέους μέσα, Dios δεκ πάντα τετουκτάι.
The poet of the mysteries, Musaeus, the son of Eumolpus, said, "From one all things come to be, and into the same they are resolved."
Εξ χενός τα πάντα γίνεσθαι, καί εσταυτόν αναλύεσθαι.
Before the philosophers were the wise men, sophoi, whose maxims, know thyself and nothing in excess, were inscribed at Delphi.
Γνώθης αυτόν, μέδεν άγαν, γονές αηδού, προγονούς στεπάνου.
Thales of Miletus was the first Ionian philosopher who inquired after the arche, proposing that all things came from water.
Presbytaton ton onton theos ag enneton gar. Kalliston kosmos poiem agar theuv.
Themistius in the 4th century wrote that Anaximander of Miletus was the first of the Greeks to dare write a treatise on philosophy.
Ουκ αλλοιούμενου του στοικαίου τεν γένεσιν ποιο, αλλά αποκρινόμενον τον εναντίον δια τες αηδιού κινέσεως.
Pythagoras of Samos was the first to be called a philosopher and set up a community in Croton, teaching that everything was number.
Hen, duo, tria, tessera. Ha tetractus, paga aenaup huseos.
Theano of Croton drew a sharp line. Never hide the truth of virtue, and never give breath to the shame of vice. Peri hon legen kalon, peri touton siopan aiskron, kai peri aiskron legen peri touton siopan amenon. Xenophanes of Colophon was the first philosopher to criticize the mythology of Homer, the immorality attributed to the gods and their anthropomorphism.
Hippoiment hippois iboes de tebus in homoias, kai ket heon ideas egrapon kai somate poiun.
Heraclitus of Ephesus was notoriously obscure.
Eternity is a child playing Pesus. The kingdom belongs to the child.
Aion pais esti paisdon pesseuon. Paidos he basileie.
Parmenides, the founder of logic, received his philosophy from an unnamed goddess who told him the way of truth and of opinion.
Χρέτο λεγέν τενόιν θεον εμμενάι. Έστιγαρ ενάι, μέδεν δούκεστην.
Zeno of Elea used logic to argue for the impossibility of motion by pointing to the paradox of Achilles and the tortoise.
Ομμασιμεν χωρότεν κελώνεν νικόμενεν. Ο του παραδοξού. Τόιδε νόη λογίσδομαι αουτεν στεπανούσται.
Empedocles revealed the double truth of the cosmos, how love binds all into one, and strife tears them back into many.
Διπλερεό, τότε μεν γαρχεν έουξετε μόνον εινάι εκ πλεόνον, τότε δάου διέπχου πλέον εξενός ενάι.
Anaxagoras predicted eclipses, explained meteors, and imagined life throughout the cosmos. On Earth, he mentored Pericles during the golden age of Athens.
O Pericles, panta diekos mese honos. Huto kagȯ ten polin, o Anaxagora, diakos meso.
Democritus of Abdera posited that the complexity of the cosmos was the result of indivisible elementary particles, atoms, moving in the infinite void.
Νόμοι θερμών, νόμοι ψυχρών. Ετε ειδε άτομα καικένων.
Protagoras, the first sophist, was agnostic about the existence of the gods and taught that truth is relative. Man is the measure of all things.
Περιμεν θεόν ουκ εκχω έδεναι, ούτχος έσυν ούτχος ουκ έσυν ούτχοιοι τίνες ιδέαν.
In Plato's notoriously difficult Parmenides, the elderly philosopher meets a young Socrates to test the limits of the one and the many.
Moige.
Kaita toi auta, hoion dikaiuti eidos auto kathauto kai kalu kagatu kai panton auto on toyuton.
Nai.
Socrates sought truth through relentless questioning. And when Athens condemned him, he chose to obey the law rather than escape his death.
Hopoteroide hemon erkontai epi ameinon pragma, adelon panti. Plen etoi theoi.
Allo Sokrates, ουκ εκχολέγεν.
Ea toinen, o Kriton, kai prattomen tautei, epede tautei hotheos hyphegetai.
Toi asklepioi ophelomen akektriona alla apodote kai mea melesete.
Αλλά ταουταέσtai, αλχώρα ειτί αλλολέγες.
Socrates was said to have seen a signet in a dream. The next day he met Plato, realizing he was the student the dream alluded to.
Oho Aristokles, Aristonos, esy.
Näin, Platona de kalusime.
Sy ara eho tu kyknu neotos.
Plato maps the escape of the soul from the cave of ignorance, ascending from illusion to belief to reason, and into pure knowledge.
Ten men proten moiran epistemen kalen, deuteran de dianoian, triten de pistin, kai ekasian tetarten.
Archytas, the Pythagorean polymath, saw the unity of geometry, astronomy, arithmetic, and music, naming them sisters.
Diaitetes kai bomos tauton. Epam pogarho ἀεικύμενος καταπευγέ.
Aristotle was an empiricist. Disagreeing with his revered teacher Plato, he said that it is the philosopher's duty to hold truth above even one's friends.
Doxejedan isos beltion einai, kaudein episoteria egetes aletheias, kai ta oikea anairen.
Aristotle probed anatomy, theater, physics, virtue, and politics, but his foundational insight was in logic, the principle of non-contradiction.
Togar auto hama hyparkhen, te kai me hyparkhen adynaton toi autoi kai katato auto.
Eudoxus, pupil of Archytas and Plato, was an astronomer who reconciled irregular planetary motion using a pioneering system of nested, rotating spheres.
Ουκ εστι πλάνε εν tois ουρanois, αλλά theia kai tetagmene choreas phairon aoraton.
You look like you're searching for something.
Yeah. Just one honest man.
Mainei, o Diogenes, heliulam pontos, lyknoitis deteis?
Anthropon steto.
Hipparchia of Maronea defied her age. She chose the ragged life of the cynic philosopher against the judgment of the world. Uki batistolmon ego ergagunaikon, ton de kynon heloman romaleon bioton.
Aristippus of Cyrene proposed that we must pursue pleasure, but not be controlled by it.
Ekolaida allukekomai. Kratistongar uutome krestai alla to kraten.
Arete of Cyrene rejected stillness. She defined the good as a smooth motion of the soul. Hadonantelos tit hemi, kyria deton epithumion emi, uk hypauton kratumai. Pyrrho of Elis, the original skeptic, accompanied Alexander to the edge of India, finding minds there that mirrored his own refusal to define the world.
Ούτοδε, ουδέτοδε. Νεβατή, να νατσατή.
Epicurus, the philosopher of the garden, sought to banish the fear of gods and death, offering instead a sanctuary of friendship and simple pleasures.
Aphobon hot heos, anhypopton hot hanatos, kai tagathon men eukteton, todedenon euekartereton.
Zeno of Citium survived a shipwreck and lost a fortune, but he found the true treasure, to live according to nature and treat the rest as indifferent.
Duota ekhomen, stoma de hen, hina plionamen akuomen, hetona de legomen.
Euclid's Elements were geometry itself for thousands of years, the first axiomatic system based on mathematical proof in history.
Ta isa pros to auto, ton auton ekhelogon, kai to auto pros ta isa.
Long before Copernicus, Aristarchus of Samos proposed that the Earth revolved around the sun and that the stars were at immense distances from us.
Oraseimen helion blepo anatellonta kai tengen akineton. Logoi de lego tengen perix tu heliu kinumenen.
Using geometry, Eratosthenes of Cyrene famously measured the Earth's circumference and calculated the distance to the moon.
Helioi kanoni kai geometriai, tentes gaias perimetron, dokomuriadas 25 kai dyskilia stadia.
Carneades, the skeptic head of the academy, scandalized Rome by arguing for justice one day, only to prove the next morning it was a lie.
Ptesmen epeines aten dikaosyneen hos kosmontes poleos. Nyndeta enantia lexo.
Andronicus of Rhodos saved Aristotle's works from decaying scrolls in Rome in 60 BC. We owe virtually all of our Aristotle to that man.
Pantes anthropoi tu idenai oregontai physi. Semiunt heton aistheseon agapesis.
Lucretius put Epicurean philosophy into the Latin of his On the Nature of Things, a work rescued by Poggio Bracciolini in 1417.
Id facit exiguum clinamen principiorum, nec regione loci certa, nec tempore certo.
Paul of Tarsus visited Athens around the year 50, proclaiming, "We live and move and are in him," as some of your poets have said.
En oftogar zomen kai kinumetha kai esmen, os kai tineston katumas pyiton irikasi.
Plutarch, a Middle Platonist and priest of Delphi, found moral instruction in the lives of Greeks and Romans and in the pithy sayings of the ancients.
Alli prosanadidusa to peditin aspida ke parakelevomeni teknon efi, itan I epitas.
Epictetus was born a slave and crippled by his master. He taught that you can chain a man, but you can never chain a man's will.
Ispion eti chronon anaballi toton beltiston axion seufton, ken mideni parabeninton dieruntalogon?
We owe to Diogenes Laertius, historian of the 3rd century, most of what we know about the lives of the Greek philosophers.
Λανθάνουσι δαούφτους τα των Ελλήνων κατορθώματα. Αφών μειώτη και φιλοσοφία, αλλά και γένος ανθρώπων ήρξε.
Galen remained unsurpassed for over 1,300 years. Medical science only made progress by returning to his empiricism and anatomical observation.
Πώς γαραντής την ψυχήν αυτήν γνωρίσιεν, αγνողον την καταστεύειν του οικούεν οδιαιτάτε?
Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, wrote his meditations as a private diary. He wrote only for himself, but his stoic wisdom has fortified generations.
Μέχος μύρια μελώνετε ζεν. Το κρέον επέρτεται χέος ζες, χέος εξεστην αγαθός γενού.
Around 200 AD, Alexander, the exegete of Aristotle, defined reason's power of choice, to act or to refrain.
Ούτως δε το ανθρώπου εν το λογικό, ο ίσον εστίεν αυτό αρχήν του και ελέστε, τι και μνη.
Julian the Thyrgist was said to have saved the Roman legions from thirst and the Quadi in 179 AD.
Yonthar athaltal kairabba.
Hekate sotira.
In Rome, 270 AD, we see Plotinus whispering the ultimate goal of the soul, the flight of the alone to the alone.
Απαλλαγή των αλλών των τίδε, ποιος ανίδωνος των τίδε. Φούγη μόνου προς μόνον.
In Sicily, Plotinus saved his student Porphyry from suicide, whom we next hear declare the ultimate goal, to be united with the God over all.
Τέλος γαρ, αυτό και σκοπός ειν το ενωθήνε και πελάσε το επιπάσει Θεό.
Milan, 313 AD. Constantine issues the Edict of Milan, establishing freedom of religion for the empire.
Uttaremus, et Christianis, et omnibus, liberam potestatem sequendi religionem.
Iamblichos introduced the controversial practice of theurgy here in Apamea in the early 4th century.
Σιγά το πασεθύρ, και γη, και πόντος, και πνοέ.
In 341, the Emperor Constantius II made the ancient practice of sacrifice punishable by death.
Poina capitis subiugari praecipimus eos, quos operam sacrificis dare, vel colere simulacra constiterit.
In Pergamon, the great theurgist Sosipatra taught that philosophy was a ritual ascent and commanded the soul to rise above the dust of the earth.
Ανίστο τέκνον, θεοί σε φιλούσιν, μη ρέπεις επί τα γήινα και επίκυρα χρήματα.
Proclaimed emperor in Paris, Julian died in battle in 363, ending his brief Hellenic restoration.
Σκοπός γάρ εστιν ὑμῖν της παιδείας ή της ψυχής ελευθερία και η προς το θείον ομοίωσης.
The venerable Delphic oracle, presided by Gaia, Themis, Phoebe, and Apollo, fell silent in the late 4th century.
Χαμε πέσε ντεντάλος αυλά, ουκέτι φύμπος έχει καλυμπήν.
In 380, the Emperor Theodosius mandated Christianity as the state religion of the Roman Empire.
Cunctos populos, quos clementiae nostrae regit temperamentum, in tali volumus religione versari.
Eunapius of Sardis, biographer of the philosophers, foresaw the end. A fabulous and formless darkness shall tyrannize over the fairest things on earth.
Και το μυθώδες και αηδές σκότος τυραννήσει τα επί γης κάλλιστα.
Hypatia's philosophical and mathematical work is lost. She was murdered by a violent Alexandrian Christian mob in 415.
Δυνάμει της παραβολής των ακτινών συμπιπτουσών εν σημείο, ιδού. Πυρ, εμέμεν, γυναίκα θνητήν, απέκτηναν. Την δε φιλοσοφίαν ουδείς ανελεί.
In Athens, the academy lived on, headed by Syrianus, who tried to harmonize Platonic, Aristotelian, Orphic, and Pythagorean traditions.
Δίπρο αυτού το υπερούσιον εν θεωρήν, απλότητη και υπεροχές ανεπινοήτης.
Proclus was called to philosophy by Athena in a dream. Later, the goddess sought refuge with him when her statue was removed from the Parthenon.
Προπαρασκευαστέων σε ο Πρόκλε, τάχιστα την οικίαν. Η γαρκυρία Αθηναής παρασύ μένεινε θέλει.
For Proclus, the One was the source and destination of all reality through a triadic process of abiding, procession, and reversion.
Πάντο αιτιατών και μένει εν τη αυτού αιτία και πρόησιν απ' αυτής και επιστρέφει προς αυτήν.
Proclus was a prolific writer, but once said that he would preserve only the Chaldean oracles and Plato's Timaeus if he could.
Κύριος ὑμῖν, μόνα αν των αρχαίων απάντων βιβλίων επιούν φέρεστε, τα λόγια και των τίμεων.
In the 5th century, Hellenism could still gain converts, like Marinus of Neapolis, a Samaritan who became scholark of the academy.
Ένας Αθηνά, Σαμαρίτης γεγονός, απεταξάμιν την εκείνον δόξαν. Τα δεσόν των Ελλήνων ηγάπησα.
Damascius, who was to be the final scholark of the academy, sailed from Alexandria to Athens around the year 488.
Πάλι είναι μολύνθινο, Ζοσίμη.
Τι γράφεις. Ίσο είδωρ. Δαμάσκε, αύριον, πλέομενης Αθήνας.
Damascius met Isidore of Alexandria in Athens and revered him as a teacher and a paragon of philosophical virtue.
Χαίρε διδάσκαλε. Δαμάσκιος ημί, εξ Αλεξανδρίας. Καγώ Ισίδωρος Αλεξανδρεύς, νυν δαμφότεροι εν Αθήνες.
Damascius reads from the Enneads of Plotinus about the sun-like eye seeing the sun as the servant Zosime completes the sentence.
Ούγαραν πόποτε είδεν οφθαλμός ήλιον, ηλιοειδής μη γεγεννημένος.
Ουδέ το καλό να ανίδει ψυχή μη καλή γενομένη.
In this imagined scene, Isidore, dying in the early 6th century, warns Damascius not to incline downwards toward the dark gleaming world.
Τέκνον, μη κατονεύσεις εις τον μελαυγαία κόσμο. Ου φοβούμε ο ψυχή αδαμαντίνη.
Damascius re-evaluated the triad of one's psyche by proposing the ariton, a mystery of which nothing at all can be said.
Τι ανή επέκεινα του ενός.
Ζοσίμη. Μαντεύεται η ψυχή πόρωθεν. Το άριτον.
An unknown author, writing under the name of Dionysius the Areopagite, fused Platonic ideas of an ineffable God with Trinitarian Christianity.
Έστιδε και εκστατικός ο θείος Έρος, ούκ αιώνε αυτόν είναι τους εραστάς, αλλά των ερωμένων.
The young Simplicius could not have imagined what future task awaited him as he sought to reconcile Plato and Aristotle.
Ουκ έστι διαφωνία. Πλάτων και Αριστοτέλης εις εν βλέπουσιν.
Μακάριος ο Συμπλίκε, βλέπον εν το πλήθη το εν.
In 529, the Roman Emperor Justinian outlawed non-Christians from teaching, ending nearly 1,000 years of the academy.
Prohibemus autem, quominus ab is, qui paganorum insania laborant, ulla doctrina doceatur.
Damascius could no longer teach in Athens. He made the decision to leave the Roman Empire and seek refuge in Rome's old enemy, Persia.
Υπέμι, τι πάσχεις.
Και νόσο των Ρωμαίων νόμος, σιγάνι μας και λέβει.
House Omega in the Areopagus may have been the place where the philosophers hid precious artworks before they left Athens.
Κρύπτου ο Άννας Αθάνα, κρύπτου έως αν παρέλθει ο χειμών.
Σώζε του σωζοντάσε.
The Sasanian king Chosroes welcomed them and negotiated their safety when they decided to return to the Roman Empire.
Σοφία νεζήτουν παρά της βαρβάρης, βόρβορον δεύρων.
Φάγε συμπλήκε, αιζόμεν.
Damascius alludes to Scylla and Charybdis from the Odyssey. Zosime quotes Odysseus, "Endure my heart."
Όπισθεν Σκύλα έμπροσθεν Χάρυβδης.
Μέμνησο ομήρου Δαμάσκε, τέτλαθη δικραδί.
Damascius wrote an epigram for Zosime. Zosime, who was a slave only in body, is now free of the body too.
Ζωσίμη, η πριν εούσα μόνο το σώμα τη δούλη. Και το σώμα την ειν έβρεν ελευθερίην.
And so, Simplicius was left alone, the last of the great thinkers of antiquity, carrying the burden of philosophy.
Τιμού ελευθέρα, Ζωσίμη, ο Θεή, ο διδάσκαλε, πάντα όλολε, πάντα δεσποτέων.
Simplicius chose to write, preserving, in the dusk of ancient philosophy, the memory of its earliest beginnings.
Αναξίμανδρος, θαλού γενόμενος διάδοχος και μαθητής, αρχήντε και στοιχείων ήρικε των όντων, το άπειρον.
He labored to save wisdom from those who abandoned it, but wisdom did not abandon us and will, in time, prevail.
Φεύγοιτε τον ἀεικύμονα βίου πόντον, εις τον της σοφίας λιμέν ὁρμιζόμενοι. Καγώ ὑμῖν παραστήσομαι.